They don't make them like they used to, and thankfully they don't. Hey guys, how's it going? So you were riding to work with Kenny. Um, this comment comes up quite often in comments on my videos, especially when I show a failure of a car or whatever, whatever the part failure might be or whatever the problem might be. And people say, oh, they don't make them like they used to. They don't make them like they used to. Cars are so difficult to work on now. And, then they say, oh, I saw this accident and the car fell apart and, they don't make them like they used to. Well, thankfully they don't, in all honesty, at least in my opinion. If you look back in time, like when I started in this industry, we had at the shop, the very first shop I worked at that I started when I was 18, and I'm talking where I started at as like a full-time employee. When I started there, we had a few cars from the 60s, a lot of cars from the 70s, and a few cars from the 80s. Like almost everything that came in the shop was from the 70s. And when we did get them in, within 100,000 miles, you probably had your front end rebuilt. You probably had tie rods done, tie rod sleeves done. You probably had pitman arms, idler arms, ball joints, uppers, lowers. You probably had control arm bushings, uppers, lowers, stuff like that. That was commonplace back then. So front ends had to get rebuilt all the time. It was just, I remember you'd grease them up. You go to work on something, you get grease all over you. You'd be covered in grease because you'd have an inner tie rod, an outer tie rod, a center link. You'd have, the pitman arm with, the idler arm. Everything had grease fittings on it. It was just like, ugh. Power steering pumps would fail constantly. Steering boxes would leak. You'd have to replace the pinion seal of the steering box. Is it called a pinion seal? It might not be called the pinion seal, and I can't remember what it is, but right where the pitman arm goes. Just brain fog. In 100,000 miles, you probably had to have the transmission rebuilt once or twice. In 100,000 miles, you probably had to have valve stems replaced. You probably had to have a valve job. You may have had to have your engine re-ringed. All that stuff was commonplace. Water pumps in 100,000 miles, you probably had it replaced 3 or 4 times. There are cases where, somebody went 100,000 miles, never had to do a water pump. But I can tell you honestly, the first 4 years that I worked was at that shop. And I can tell you honestly that we had seen like the same vehicle come in for a water pump twice. And I remember that on several different cars. The cars, they were built much stronger, much heavier, but it didn't mean they were better. There again, my opinion, my personal opinion. Used to rebuild rear ends all the time. Now granted, 90% of the cars built nowadays are front wheel drive, so you lost most of the rear wheel drives because back then 90% were all rear wheel drives. But those kind of failures were all gone. Shocks and struts, or shocks, shocks were a constant every 25,000 miles back then. It was just something that happened. Springs would sag really bad. You'd have to replace springs. I remember, we would upgrade certain cars because the rear ends would be sagging, like that 75 Impala that we have at the shop. Like that, something like that would come in and we would put station wagon springs in the back so it would sit either level or a little bit up in the rear end. This way when you put something in the trunk, it wasn't dragging the bumper. The other thing too is, and I mentioned it, where people would say, I saw this accident today and there was car parts everywhere. Yeah, but the people walked away. There's a video, and I'm going to see if I can't find the video and introduce it into this one somewhere and tag it. I don't know if the tag shows up here or if the tag shows up here, but I'm going to try. I can't guarantee it. And it was GM actually did a test. I'm pretty sure it was General Motors that actually did it. And they did a test of like a 59, 60, something like that, Impala or Malibu. And then they did the offset head-on collision with another Malibu, which was new for the time, like a 2008, 2009. And so they do that offset collision, where you hit like half the front end and half the front end, like say basically the drivers of the other car is like looking at you when they hit you. That kind of a front end collision or head-on collision. And the dummy that they had set up in the old Impala would not have walked away. It would have been off to the morgue with them. And the driver of the new Impala would have walked away. And it's kind of amazing to see the kind of damage that occurs to the older car. Now, yeah, the older car didn't leave debris all over the place, but you know what? The older car also didn't hold up at all. Whereas the new car, it's designed to have crumple zones and fall apart and this, that, and the other thing. So it's done like that on purpose. So the car, it held up. It did its job. Cars' basic jobs nowadays are to hold up in an accident. That's why you have the safety ratings and everything else. Back then you really didn't have much of safety ratings. A guy named Ralph Nader made a video about, or not a video, a film, wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed. And basically he condemned the Corvair, and it kind of basically killed the Corvair and I think that's kind of where it started, where people started to get more aware of vehicles' risks on the road. But the funny thing was, he condemned the Chevy Corvair as a rollover risk, but meanwhile, there were many other cars back then that were rollover risks. I could never understand that, and I think about it today, and it's like the guy absolutely killed the Chevy Corvair, but it's like there's no reason for it because there was other cars that were just as bad. But I'll give you one good example, and this is why back in the day, I used to own a lot of Dodge Neons, and it all started with a 2002 Dodge Neon that I purchased. And right around that time, it was a trade-in at the dealership. It was a stick shift, and I prefer not to buy an automatic if I could. But the guy who had purchased it, which was like not even a year prior, he wound up having to have knee surgery, and he no longer could drive the car. So, and it was going to be like a 2-year recovery for him, so he couldn't drive the car. So he was like, well, I need to drive, I can't drive this car. So he wound up trading it in and bought an automatic one, but he liked the Neon. So I wound up buying that car from the dealership because it still had low mileage and I got it at a good price. But anyway, what happened was, the reason I decided to go with Neons was we had Neon loaner cars at the time, and people are like, oh, Neons, they're junk. Well, I don't know about that. I had great luck with all the ones I've had, and I think I own 8 of them, in total. But one day, I remember this customer had dropped their vehicle off with us, and him and his wife, they wound up getting one of our Dodge Neon loaner vehicles. So they left in the loaner vehicle. Several hours later, I see that same loaner vehicle coming in on the back of a flatbed, and the front bumper was up to the windshield just about. I mean, it took a hit. So getting out of the tow truck was the guy who borrowed the car or rented the car. I think they considered them rentals, even though they didn't have to pay for it. So the guy who got the rental and the tow truck driver got out of the tow truck. So the guy, I said, hey, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, no, we're fine. He goes, my wife actually has a fracture in her ankle. He says, but me, I just, a little beat up from the seatbelt and stuff like that. He even said, he goes, I cannot believe how well this car held up. And I said, what happened? So he says, a guy in a Pontiac Parisienne station wagon. Okay, do you even know what those are, Pontiac Parisienne station wagons? They were the Pontiac, family truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation. It was those big Chevy Caprice station wagons, those big square ones, from the late 70s, early 80s. So that's what he said was the guy actually went over the double yellow line and hit him head on. But he said the guy in the other car was actually pinned in the car by the steering column, and the steering wheel had him pinned into the seat, and he suffered some pretty bad injuries. They actually had to cut him out of the car, and they airlifted him. He said they were able to walk away, even though his wife had fractured her ankle. They were able to walk away from the Neon, where this guy had to get cut out and airlifted. Pretty amazing if you think about it. And he said the guy in the station wagon had his seatbelt on, but he was hurt from the steering column. So think about it for a second there. That's a pretty substantial car versus a Neon. And the people in the Neon, walked away. And once I saw that, having children that were soon going to get into driving, it was kind of like, you know what? When the Neon came to be in front of me at a good price that somebody traded in, I was just like, you know what? I could use a new car at this point, or a newer car. So I bought it, and it's a 5-speed, and it was a great car. I loved it. I loved that thing. I put 300,000 miles on that thing. I loved it. I hated getting rid of that car. And that car actually had gotten technically totaled 3 times, and I fixed it every time. But yeah, I can't knock it. But to say that, you know, they don't make them like they used to. Be thankful they don't. Seriously, be thankful they don't. It's a good thing. Yes, you hear about failures of, you know, timing chains and engines and transmissions and stuff like that nowadays, but they're actually fewer and far between. I think the biggest problem is if you look at the pricing, you know, it's way more expensive to fix a car nowadays than it is back then, even if you account for inflation. It's a bigger chunk of money. But as far as I'm concerned, it falls all back to maintenance. You know, if you maintain your car, and I'm a firm believer in it, and I've seen it many times, those people that maintain the daylights out of their cars have very few problems. Those people who don't maintain the daylights out of their car, those are the ones that have the problems. Normally. Not saying you can't have a problem, but that's normally. All right, guys. Well, I hope you got something out of that video. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, I hope you have a great day. Keep wrenching.